is going on, and welcome to episode 1 of Game Time, your weekly fun gaming podcast with your boys, Tom, Bach, and Snowbike Mike. Welcome and hello. Let me introduce you to my co-host and my best friend, Tom Bach. How you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, Mike. I am super excited to get this thing kicked off with you and having a good evening watching some of the NCAA tournament stuff and enjoying my evening. How are you doing?
I'm perfect, Tom. And like we discussed, this has been a project in the wait. We've been having a lot of fun going back and forth, and now here we are. It's become reality, and it's time to give it back to you, the best friends, the viewers out there. So let's jump into it. It's week 1, episode 1 of the Game Time Gaming Podcast with Tom Bach and Snowbike Mike, and we thought, let's discuss some of the expectations, maybe our goals for the podcast. So, Tom, I'll start off, and then I'll kick it to you for maybe some of your expectations and aspirations.
Beautiful.
So for me, I've written down, we want to provide a weekly gaming, topic-based discussion for you. It's going to be fun, sometimes critical of the gaming world. As well, we'd like to sprinkle in a little bit of some sports news, maybe some sports topics if we're feeling up to it. But all in all, it's going to be a fun gaming podcast with me and Tom, two best friends, just talking about what we're doing in the virtual world. Tom, what do you think about that?
Yeah, man, I think that's perfect. You know, there's so many, I think these days there's so many podcasts people are doing, right? And so it's always interesting to try to find something that's a little bit different, a little bit unique. And I think that's kind of it, man. It's like hopefully they don't get too long, right? I'm not trying to make a big, crazy dissertation-like thing on gaming, but just kind of what's going on that week, what's kind of catching our eye, positively, negatively, right? Just kind of talk openly, just like hopefully people see it as two people that are sitting around having a conversation that you'd have in your living room over a beer, or watching people play a game, whatever it is, right? That's nothing heavier than that, hopefully.
I love that. It's right. And it's just two guys hanging out, talking about video games. I love it, Tom.
There you go, baby.
And since it's episode 1, we kind of went over, our aspirations for the show. This is going to be coming out each and every week. We're going to try to get together. Maybe we'll have some different co-hosts if one of us can't make it. But you'll get Mike and Tom most of the time. And so with that, let's just talk about a little bit. Tom, tell me about your gaming background. You got some years on me, but you're still a young buck out in the world right now. And I want to know, where did you start? Maybe some of your favorite games, some of your gaming moments. I know you got kids, you got a beautiful wife, a couple of beautiful daughters. Maybe you shared some moments in the gaming world. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, man. So without going too far back yet, because it'll date me. I remember. I think the first console I ever had was in Intellivision. If anybody remembers that piece of shit from way back in the day, I remember bugging the crap out of my parents to get that when I was a kid. I don't know if you remember that thing. That was like pre-Atari days almost. That thing is like way back.
I don't want to date Tom, but I've never even heard of that.
Dude, that shit was crazy. It was like this touchpad thing, and it's a hair better than Pong, literally. Like it was just a step above freaking a ball and 2 bars on either side bouncing back and forth. They had like football and soccer and shit, but it was kind of like the handheld. Remember like the ColecoVision football where it was just a bunch of dots on the screen and you were controlling the dots? It was like one of those things. But man, then for a while I wasn't really into gaming, I think kind of through my teenage years, and it was really like the PS2 generation probably, and there was some Nintendo sprinkled in there. But man, I was never like a fanboy of any real specific manufacturer console. I was always the kid that, like, if I could, I played across all the platforms, right? I always thought fanboyism, which I guess kind of didn't become a thing until later, was just kind of stupid, right? You can like multiple things. You don't have to pick a side, right? There's kind of no sides with it. But played a ton. I think kind of through like the late 90s, early 2000s, I started getting really, really into gaming again. Even like PC gaming, I think back then was kind of I always had a PC, always played shit on a PC. And then it was really, man, I want to say like the Xbox 360, PS3 generation that it really, obviously the Xbox generation just before it, the original Xbox with the big honking controller, that generation kind of really opened my eyes to gaming. But it was really the one after where I kind of really got deep, right? Kind of the 360, PS3 generation. And I was always the, play everything guy. I wasn't really into multiplayer. I would always kind of dabble with like every game that came out, I would try to check out and play a little bit of, right? Rather than get kind of locked into like multiplayer stuff, I would try a little bit of everything. And dude, I think my gamer score on Xbox Live is some stupid shit like 120,000 or some crazy ass number. Just
Flying.
huge. It just comes out of so many different games, right? I just play a little bit of everything and never really locked into any one thing, at least until after meeting you guys. And now PUBG's freaking consuming my life. But besides that, I think that's probably the first one.
I like that.
And so what were your big kind of,
thinking back, Tom,
Mike Howard?
I mean, of course, the arcades back in the day. You'd have mom and dad take you to different arcades. You'd have a ton of fun smashing all the buttons. But really, when it came to being at home, it was the N64 was our first console. Going to Blockbuster to rent different games each and every Friday was so much fun. And I think that was kind of what put me on the path of more of a multiplayer-centric kind of lifestyle of Gauntlet Legends with mom and my little brother all night long playing that game, smashing A and B on the N64 controller, to GoldenEye with your friends trying to hit each other for killing each other too much or playing as Odd Job, as all of you know. And then I want to give a big shout-out. One of my favorite games on the N64 was actually Conker's Bad Fur Day. I love the story.
No kidding!
But not many people know it had an amazing multiplayer. Had a lot of different game modes, had a lot of cool things. They had bots involved where you could get up to like 16 different bots going against you and your 4 friends. So got to give a big shout out to that. And that kind of put me on the path of multiplayer. Then moving forward, of course, once it hit middle school to high school, that's when we started seeing Halo 2 online. And it just took over and consumed my life and a lot of my friends' life of going over to AJ Tesorero's house. His older brother was, 4 years older than us, so all of his friends would be there. We would be there. Kids would be screaming from across the hallway at each other. And I'll never forget, you'd be ranking up your level. You didn't even know what the level criteria was. You would all of a sudden be 22, you'd be 21, or you'd be 24 all of a sudden. And I just couldn't stop the grind on Halo 2.
So was that so like, was Halo, remind me, was Xbox Live, Xbox Live started then, right? That wasn't like hardwired networking back then, was it, or was it?
I think they had a wireless adapter that was still on the big Xbox, remember, the original one.
Yeah, of course.
And they had hardwire, or they started to sell a wireless adapter for it. And I remember thinking back on my PS2, you had to screw in the wired adapter. Did you ever get that for it?
Oh, right. Yeah,
it was like a big box. It was like a big box on the back. You'd have to screw it in. It was pretty wild. But yeah, that was back in the day when you had to hardline things. You could never get a hold of your friends because it would just give you the internet sound all the time. Nobody could call you. Those are some fun times back then.
Right, it would tie up your phone light. Yeah, you wonder how the hell they architected around that too, right? I mean, that was like as minimal a bandwidth as you could possibly probably get at that point, right?
Oh, amazing. And to think big team battle, 8 versus 8, that's 16 players just rampaging all over the map. So much fun.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, so that it's funny. There was so many years that I don't know if I was like intimidated by that stuff, but every time that I would kind of dive into it, I never, all multiplayer stuff for me, I never had a good experience with it, right? I always kind of stayed offline because I just never had that group of friends that was all, that's kind of what, like with PUBG now, right? It's having people around that because if, anything short of that, you just kind of get the shit kicked out of you and it's not a hell of a lot of fun, right?
Exactly, Tom. And I think that's what put me on is like you're with your friends. It wasn't really ever solo going into multiplayer. It was always 5 of my friends had this. We could meet up online or meet at one person's house and we all could play. I think even if you remember back, they would allow 1 or 2 players online on the original Xbox as a guest, and you would go split screen online multiplayer. So it wasn't even like we all had our own console. So that was really how it begun. We were always in the same room yelling at each other, having fun.
Right. So it was way more about that. That was like, and that's how it led to like Rock Band and all that other stuff, right? Becoming like this. It was a social thing. It was really not about winning or losing frickin' multiplayer matches and all that shit, right? It wasn't like competitive.
Oh my gosh.
Right, didn't start till like way later that people got really competitive like they are now with esports and everything else. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, Guitar Hero, Rock Band with your friends. Oh, Fusion Frenzy, come on, Fusion Frenzy.
Fusion Frenzy is such a freaking great game. Didn't you say the other night that you guys had picked that up recently?
Picked that up on Xbox, backwards compatible on my Xbox One, but there's no online, so you have to have 4 friends the house to play it with you. So. A little downfall in today's age where we all are playing multiplayer with our friends, but not in the same rooms or households anymore. It's the only difference that my road has now led me to. So it's more of a solitude type-esque, but I'm still with friends across the world, which is nice.
Yeah. And dude, you're playing way more. You're way more on Xbox now too than PlayStation, you think, or what is your
I would
split
say
now?
I'm mainly on Xbox. I would say about 90% Xbox, 5% on my PlayStation 4, and then another 5 on the Switch. But I'm really an Xbox heavy guy, and it only comes down to the controller. Truly, it's the controller.
Really?
I like that different analog
Yep.
setup with the sticks. I like the weight of the controller a little bit bigger. Every time I get on that DualShock, it just doesn't feel right to me. And that's what kind of put me on the path of more an Xbox-centric this generation. Had the 360, didn't really have a PS3, so I was more an Xbox guy through and through.
Yeah, dude, I was definitely that for last generation. I hated the PS3 controller, and anything that was multi-platform, 100% for me was on 360. Same reason, controller was just way better. I mean, obviously the ecosystem was way better last gen as well, right? I mean, Sony's done an amazing job kind of catching up this generation with PSN and kind of what they do with the store and stuff. But man, people
Totally.
forget what a shit show PS3, the cross media bar, all the stuff that came. I mean, it was just not even close to what Microsoft. As many
Oh.
people rag on Microsoft, they were just light years ahead of what Sony was doing last generation. And then the controller, of course, was like not even close, right? Yeah, it wasn't even a contest for me last generation either. I think I'm like, I don't know, level 14 or 15 on PlayStation just because I just haven't logged anywhere near the hours in it.
Oh yeah, don't look at my PlayStation account. I have no platinums, no levels at all. You look at my Xbox account, and we'll talk about it. But
yeah, even though, man, and that's, I'm sure we'll talk in the future on future podcasts about games and kind of what's going on generation wise. But man, there is a staggering difference now to what PlayStation's going to have coming out over the next year to what Xbox is, right? I mean, it's really been, this generation's really strange to see for the first time in a long time to me, where you really, you want to be gaming on PlayStation a hell of a lot more. I mean, they have so much coming out here in the not too distant. I mean, Xbox has got some stuff, but arguably not even close to what PlayStation does. So maybe it really will just be about the games and not about the controller, not about any of that other stuff. It'll just be about the games, right?
it will be fun to discuss that with you coming further is right, Tom. It's going to be amazing. But I want to take a quick step back. We were talking about consoles and, maybe what you're mainly on and stuff like that. But do you have any memories, Tom, of maybe going to pick up a special console on launch day or maybe with your daughters and your wife over there? Was there one that stood out to you? Because I know I got plenty of stories to tell you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think of like the launch stuff. Yeah, at least the recent ones, man. I've just been so dialed into, trying to get them online and stuff like that. Probably like the craziest story. One of the stories I think that I'll always remember. I'm a big Dark Souls guy, right? That's probably one of my. It's peppered in my top 5, top 10, and I think like one of my greatest gaming memories. I think the moment that I realized, especially as I was getting older, like how long am I gonna genuinely dig gaming? Like, am I gonna always have this passion for it? And it kind of ebbs and flows for people, right? Like, there's sometimes you're really into it, and there's been years, or not years, but there's been times I've been like, man, am I really gonna, be as avid of a gamer my whole life as I am now and dig it as much as I do? And there's a moment. If you played Dark Souls, the Ornstein and Smough fight, that insane boss. I mean, every boss fight's crazy in Dark Souls, but there's one that is kind of like the famous one, right? That most people who are Dark Souls players know. Like, I will never forget the moment that I beat that boss fight, and like the emotion that came out of me was like nothing else I think I've ever can remember coming out of a video game. That a video game could make me kind of feel that way. And I remember my daughter was there watching it too, right? And this was right when kind of there wasn't streaming, there was no Twitch, but it was right when YouTube videos started kind of getting made, right? It was right when kind of, I forget what year that was when Dark Souls came out, but there was this I think it was Game Guides, or in fact, it may be one of the guys that's been on Kind of Funny as a guest now that does, kind of guides now for a living. Because I think most people who've seen me know I'm a big game guide guy. I've got like 1 million game guides. Like, one day I'll bust them out. I've got just years of freaking strategy guides.
So cool.
Which is crazy, right? But my daughter was really into this. She was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7. My oldest daughter is now 12. And this guy was so freaking funny, right? He was like one of the original YouTubers streaming Dark Souls. Like, he would, not streaming it, but he would record himself. And he would die horrific ways like you do in Dark Souls, right? Constantly. And I remember watching him beat that boss fight and doing it over and over and over. And dude, the moment that I did it, watching my daughter like circle the living room, running around like a mad woman, at like age 6 that she understood this thing. And yeah, you kill me for letting my kid watch Dark Souls, I guess maybe, but she got so freaking excited by it. And I remember, the emotion that I had from it too. And it was, to this day, I don't know that I've ever had like a feeling come out of me like that from a game before. So that's the one that kind of sticks out the most to me that I'll never ever forget was
that
with beating that boss.
I love that, Tom. And you talk about that emotion and feeling. You know what I'm really getting that feeling from is PUBG. Getting that
Yeah.
chicken dinner by yourself with your friends. There's just that hype that comes up. You can feel it. The climax is about to happen, whether it be good or bad. And when you
Right.
win it, it's like, oh my God, your emotions are flying all the time.
Your
And-
palms get sweaty. Like, what
Oh.
else is going to make you do that as an adult? I mean, seriously, like your palms get sweaty and your heart, dude, my heart literally will beat out of my chest at the end of those games. Literally.
Oh, the best. And so, yeah, I'm feeling a lot of that emotion. When I think back at like fun console launches, back when the 360 launched, I was a freshman in high school, and I had my mom stand outside a Best Buy for about 8 hours while I was at school. And then we
Camping.
switched, and we camped outside all night long, me and my mom, in the freezing Boulder, Colorado weather. I mean,
Oh.
it was cold as could be on that November night.
Holy
And we
cow.
finally make it to the next morning. And thank God we're in like the top 8. We're in the front 8 people because they only have, of course, 8 consoles, which was
Right.
awful. So the guy comes out, gives us all vouchers. And while this is all happening, you could see Target across the street. You could see Circuit City next to us. And this kid pulls up with his buddy in their car. And he's like, I hate Xbox. And he's got the 360 in his hand and throws it on the
No.
concrete in front of me and hundreds of people, and he's now laughing. They drive away,
Oh my
and
God.
everybody's in a panic like, oh my God, what did we just watch? And me and my mom were so exhausted from freezing to death all night, finally getting the voucher, getting it home, and of course, the biggest downfall. The guy had promised us we were one of the lucky people to get the one with the actual hard drive to come with it.
Oh, that's
Mind
right,
you,
'cause
if
you
you
used to have
didn't
to buy
know,
it.
there was
That's
2
right.
consoles. There was the one with the hard drive
Yeah.
and an arcade version. And so we
Right.
get home. What did Mike Howard have? He had the arcade version. And I remember, you want to talk
Oh.
about emotion, just crying for hours as my mom was in a panic. I'm yelling, I can't save anything. I can't do anything. And she's on the phone with this guy. And that was the longest hours of my life, knowing
Oh
that
my
we
God.
waited for so long to get the cheaper version and not be able to save anything. Of course, it was all worked out in the end because mom and dad always know what's best.
Yeah,
But
they do.
one of the most traumatic experiences
Dude,
ever.
Because didn't they make, if I remember, and I think I've still got them, they've got the little memory cards that you'd plug in the front. Remember
That's
those little things? Those
What she
little
had
white...
to go get me is right, Tom, just so I could
Right.
save my NBA Live player, play Perfect Dark with my brother.
Oh my
And
God.
then eventually, like you guys know, there was the big hard drive on top that you could detach, put them onto different ones. And that didn't change until we got to the Xbox 360 Elite, that all black console with the internal hard drives.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, you know what's crazy too is those moments when you. That's a crazy story, but it's insane. The one, every, because of like how much each, those kind of first games you play on the new console, when you first get to see something, like I remember on, first time playing like Super Mario Sunshine or something that was 3D or something that was radically different than what it was before, right? The first game you played on a PS4, whatever. Dude, I got to tell you, on the new gen, and again, you got to kind of have a 4K setup and all that kind of stuff. But dude, some of the stuff on this latest on Scorpio, like I've been tweeting out a bunch about Assassin's Creed Origins and seeing that thing in 4K. I don't know if you've seen that in 4K.
I've seen
Dude,
you
it's absurd.
tweet it.
It's as absurd as the jumps, all the prior jumps, as big as they are from 2D to 3D, 3D to HD, HD to this. Dude, it's like I can't even fathom what's coming next after seeing games
Oh.
like Assassin's Creed. Dude, Shadow of the Colossus in 4K. Like, I honestly don't know that you could tell that that's not really a photograph. It's that insane.
Man, that's interesting, Tom, because, me, unfortunately, I've had every single Xbox version this new generation. From the Xbox original, when the day launched, I've had the S, the white console. I
Yep.
still have that. And I have the Scorpio in my house, but I don't have a 4K setup at all. And I really wonder, what are the numbers, the statistics of how many people are similar to me with maybe the PS4 Pro or the Scorpio or the S and are not actually taking it full advantage of the, full console specs here to
Oh, I
see
would
it in
think a ton.
4K. You know
I
what I
would
mean?
think a ton of
'Cause
people,
I'm not
dude.
in that, and I wish I could see all these games in 4K. I feel like I'm almost missing out, but that will come soon enough. I'm
It'll
sure.
come, dude. And the prices are coming down. And not to be a dick, but you are missing because it's like, dude, there's moments I look at it that I almost can't. I always think of like the development side of it and just how complicated the development is and how much shit is going on at once and how it can possibly keep up with all the shit that's going on at once.
Oh,
Even on the PS4 Pro, right? They're both kind of comparable. I think the X probably looks a little bit better now that kind of more stuff's coming out and the way it looks. I think it's more powerful than what the PS4 Pro is, just in terms of just kind of raw compute power. But dude, when you do, there'll be a few moments you'll have that it'll be like all those old moments back in the day, right? When you'd wait for the new 360, you'd wait for whatever.
Yeah.
And just like those first couple games you played, you'd be like, holy shit, that thing is like light years ahead of what the one before it was, right?
Oh, Tom, it's interesting you say that because I've taken my Twitch stream once a week back to the streets, is what I called it a while back, where I started getting my PS2 out. We played NFL Street, NBA Street, FIFA Street, and we took those games out. And I distinctly remember back in that day and age thinking, oh my God, look at Stephon Marbury's face. Look at a young Carmelo and how clear the graphics are. And then I booted up and I'm like, oh my God, look at this. I can't even make out who is who on the court.
Right.
And so it's hard to believe, like you said, there's those jumps each and every time and how different it gets to.
Right, dude. Go back. I mean, like, go see like an NBA Live 95 or one of those way back in the day, right?
Yep. You turn on your N64 and you're playing Blitz, and it's just a bunch of blocky dudes running in circles. It's amazing to think about.
But do you remember how awesome you thought that was? Like, I was always the sports guy back then, right? Every year of Madden, I still got a buddy of mine, really close friend of mine that we still play and just laugh about. We would play Madden 93, 94, 95, right? NBA Live, all those years when it was good. And it's so freaking funny because you thought it was so advanced back then. Like, it was insane that there was, a guy that had statistics, right? That was like when they would start, like one guy be faster than another guy or have better hands than another guy or be taller. Like, those little stupid things made such a huge difference back then.
Amazing, Tom. Yeah, the things that you take for granted and thinking back on the day, how amazing it all was is right.
Right.
Well, Tom, we like to keep this podcast a little short, sweet, right to the point so we can have some fun. You guys can engage with it and not feel overburdened by having to listen to an hour or two podcast. And, you're going to get a lot more of me and Tom throughout the coming weeks. We'll have more flashback moments. We'll dive more into our different consoles. We'll talk more about games. But I want to wrap up episode 1 with just maybe something you're, feeling excited for in the next couple of weeks. We're in the middle of March here. It's been kind of quiet to start the year off. There has been some title releases, but nothing really grabbing you besides probably Monster Hunter, I'm sure a lot of you are saying right now. But coming up, is there anything you're excited for, Tom? Why don't you, wrap up the show? Tell me what you're excited for.
Yeah, two things. I mean, I'm always excited for Far Cry, right? Far Cry is always one of those really big on my list kind of games, and I think I've had some of the most, enjoyable, spectacular fun with Far Cry 4, Far Cry 3, right? I'm a little worried about it though. Like, I don't know, all the Ubisoft titles are now starting to kind of run together a little bit, right? I was talking to some people on playing PUBG today about it. One of Sean Pitts' buddies is a game developer down at GDC, was talking about Ubisoft reusing all their gaming assets for all their games, right? And they all start looking kind of the same.
That's interesting you say that, because you could actually think that in your mind of like, wow, it actually kind of is, Tom. That's interesting to say that.
Right, because, I mean, Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and what the hell was the one
Division you had? Oh, Watch Dogs, right? Yep,
Right? They all kind of use similar mechanics and stuff, right? Not that they can't. And I played Far Cry 5 a little bit at PAX West. I spent a little bit of time with it. But I'm still excited for it. That's the one I think that's of the bunch that I'm probably most excited about, because I think there's enough cool shit to do in that one to kind of keep you interested. And then, dude, Sea of Thieves, I tweeted something out today about reading a really interesting article about how that game's been in development a really, really long time, right? Rare's got such a great pedigree when you think of the games that they've come out with from like a creativity standpoint. I mean, they just have such a ability to come out. I mean, that game could be really, really special. I don't know enough about it yet to know kind of what's going to keep the longevity, right? Are you going to be interested to play that game week after week after week? Is there going to be more shit to go do that's going to, and again, I want to compare everything to PUBG, but something that's going to, make you and me die to get back online and play together? I hope so, because, dude, it looks really interesting. It's super freaking unique. I don't think there's anything that's been like that game in a long time. So I think, for me, Sea of Thieves and Far Cry, probably the two. What about you?
You know, Tom, that's interesting. Really quick. By the time you guys are watching and or listening to this, Sea of Thieves will be out. Me and Tom will probably have impressions of it, and we'll be playing it. I'm really excited for Sea of Thieves. I think it'll be a nice mix-up, because right now with my streams and just kind of the multiplayer-centric guy that I am, I'm really looking for titles where I can bring my crew together. We can squad up and roam around, and, PUBG's captured us. Monster Hunter's been great, but to think that we can become pirates, sail the seven seas, maybe fight some sharks, shoot some other pirates, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited for that. On my PlayStation, I have Attack on Titan 2 pre-ordered and ready to go. I heard, honestly, nothing but good things from the first one, so I'm excited to see where that goes. I've watched the anime. I want to try this one out. That'll be good. And then Far Cry 5, I'm skeptical, and I'm excited, but I'm on the fence. 3 had me on the island. I loved Far Cry 3. Far Cry 4, I barely made it through. I just got bored. The grind killed me, like you said, Tom, of like, you hit this map and there's so much to do, and I don't know if you want to grind through it or if you want to smash through the story. Where do you want to be? And so I'm thinking of this one. I'm like, where am I going to be standing at this moment in time? But I'm really excited to see the co-op aspect of it.
Yeah, me too. What do you stand on God of War? What's your God of War history?
Can't wait for God of War. Cannot wait for God of War. I need a little button mashing in my life sometimes. That square, triangle, heavy hit. So I'm excited for God of War. We do have some time for that one. But another one I wanted to bring up to you, Tom, and I think it's going to be great for you and I to connect and some other people to play on, is Get Out. Get Out has not gotten much publicity, and it's coming out in the coming weeks. And, it's been a lot of fun to see this guy from the Game Awards yelling at the Oscars and showing this, to really seeing, wow, this title looks like a fun time with you and a buddy to do.
By the time this launches, because I know, what is it, the 20th? So I saw that my Sea of Thieves had shipped from Amazon, and I think Get Out's like 3 days behind it, I think, right? 23rd?
I think it's going to be right in between. By the time you're watching this and maybe episode 2, we will either have our hands on it and we'll be playing it, or it'll be by the episode 2. But really excited for that, for a little two-person, kind of that weird split screen where I can see you and you can see my screen and we kind of see what's going on. It's a really interesting concept that I've never seen done before, truly.
Good, I agree, and that guy's so freaking interesting. Obviously, I mean, if nothing else, that game's either going to go spectacularly down in flames or be fantastic. It's not going to be in between, right? That's one of those games that's going to be on the edges, one way or the other. It's not going to be average.
Yeah,
right.
It will be funny, and remember, only one of you has to buy this. You can actually share this game with a friend totally for free. You invite them to play it. The only catch is your friend that doesn't own the game will not receive trophies and or achievements for it. But at the same time, what an interesting business model of one of you buy this, call up your friend, they'll download it. Let's play this. No issues at all.
We gotta plan to do an episode on all these alternative financial models, because I think I'm super fascinated by free to play, what Fortnite's doing. I'm super fascinated now by what Rainbow Six Siege is doing, having the highest player count they've ever had 2 years after launch, which is nuts, right? So they're putting all this money into this game that's been out for 2 years, and they're freaking killing it, which is a crazy model. Right now you got this model, which, dude, why not give it away, half of it? Half the game. As long as one of the two people bought it, why not go try that out, right? That's a really interesting model that they're trying to do. That's really cool.
Fun stuff. And we're going to leave you with that little teaser for possible more topics to come. Tom Bach nailed it right there. Of course, I am Snowbike Mike, one of your hosts. You can find me at Snowbike Mike on Twitter, on Instagram, and, of course, twitch.tv/SnowbikeMike, where I'm streaming 5 nights a week with, of course, my partner in crime, Tom Bach, and many of you listening and watching. I'll kick it over to my man, Tom Bach. Where can everybody find you, and say goodbye?
Dude, to find me, it's Twitter is @Galunga, GALUNGA. Maybe throw a graphic up there for me, since it's kind of a weird one.
Yeah.
No, man, and then find me streaming with you as much as I can. If I'm not traveling for work and stuff, those I don't quite have the 5 nights a week in me, but hopefully I'll get at least 3 of those 5 in. Hopefully.
I love that. We're turning Tom back. We're rewinding time with Tom, turning him into a young buck in gaming world again.
That's right.
Of course, this has been episode 1 of the Game Time Podcast with Snowbike Mike and Tom Bach. Remember, this is going to be a weekly podcast of 2 friends just chatting about the gaming world, what we're playing, what we're seeing in the industry, and we want to provide you guys with some fun times to listen to, watch throughout the week. So thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you all next week. On behalf of Snowbike Mike and Tom Bach, Peace out and have a great time, gamers.
Peace.